Welcome back to TYT Sports, everybody. Francis Maxwell on the end, Lauren Mayhew in the center, Jason Rubin on the other end. So we've done a lot of clips discussing pretty much the biggest sports-related story in the world right now, which outside of the devastating attacks that happened, which is Ronda Rousey's potential fall from grace handed to her by Holm. Now, before Holm stepped into the octagon with Ronda Rousey, I was told yesterday that her Facebook page included her cell phone number.
What?
Her actual cell phone number.
Yeah. Wow.
So much so that she was getting so blown up after the fight because she just, this rise to stardom, like in a split second, she knocks out Ronda Rousey, and Holm is now the biggest name in UFC for at least a 24 to 48 hour period, simply because, you know, until Ronda Rousey's back in training, we start seeing the videos, and until more feuds start getting brewed up between probably Holm, maybe Rousey, it's time for us to take time and discuss who Holm is, where she's from, and how she got to this point. So ESPN ran an article, 10 facts about Holm, her bio, Lauren, which I know you read all 65 chapters, 800 pages.
It was a novel, really, actually.
What was one thing that stood out to you about Holm? Just, is it personality? Is it her background?
You know, I mean, she's obviously been in the sport for a very long time. I mean, it was like starting with, you know, fights that she had back, 2000. So she's not a newbie. We may not have known who she was, but she's been around and she's been doing this for a while. I did notice that she kept mentioning a trainer that she started with from the very beginning. Apparently she had went to a kickboxing class, or no, originally she was doing aerobics, and then she decided she wanted to try out kickboxing, realized that she was actually good at it, and the trainer was this guy named Mike Winklejohn.
Nailed it.
And, nailed it. Mike Winklejohn. And, you know, throughout her entire career, you find that even after multiple years of fighting, she still references him and thanks him for getting her into it, and I think she still trains with him. So I thought that was pretty impressive. I mean, obviously there's a connection and a loyalty there, and, you know, something where I think it's really important for, you know, when you're a fighter to have somebody that really believes in you from the very, very beginning. And I think that does a lot mentally for the fighter to be able to be with that same person throughout their entire career. So I was impressed by that.
It's funny because the saying, having someone in your corner, has stuck through life as much as it has the sport of boxing and MMA, UFC, any of them.
Yeah. Obviously, it's so important to you. I mean, people say the cliche comments like, oh, when you're coached into a sport and you get that infrastructure, it helps guide you through life. And it actually does. Like, there's no doubt about it, especially for me. Playing football all my life, like you take the exact same goals that you want to take when you learn through the sport, and you try and push them into everyday life. If you don't make it into that field that you want to pursue, I tried, got some success, but didn't get as much as I thought. But I still used the same kind of tools that I was given from my coach, from my coaching background to push me forward. But the thing that I'm interested about talking with Holm, I mean, we discussed how she won that fight. I think when you watch it back, and we've talked about it plenty of times, you can check out our recap with Shane Faison. It's clear how she won the fight. She stuck to her game plans to a T. Like, she never adjusted, despite the fact that she could have adjusted. That's one thing that I think had to be said.
No, she came in prepared. She knew what she was facing. She knew what she was up against, and she made a plan of attack with her team that she thought would beat Ronda Rousey.
Yeah, and the thing is that on the other clip, I forgot to mention, like, she could have easily altered that plan. When Ronda Rousey started to get like a wild bull and launch herself at her, she could have attacked rationally. She could have irrationally just tried to throw a few punches and knock her out whilst Ronda Rousey was a little rattled. But she didn't. She was calm, composed. She waited for the exact same moment. So that has all been discussed. Like, I think not as much so as the fact that Ronda has lost, as you mentioned. It's not, the headline isn't Holly had won, like it's first Ronda knocked out.
Right.
But we want to know more about Holm, the person, because we know she came from a boxing background, a champion. So I think that's what has to be focused on just as much as Ronda's fault.
Some facts.
Some facts.
Get some facts.
Let's hear some facts.
Fun facts.
All right.
All right, let me hear
So
it.
she's from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and her nickname is the Preacher's Daughter, as she grew up with a religious background. Her father is literally a preacher.
Well,
and
that
she
fits.
is the daughter of said preacher.
Oh, nice.
There you
beautiful
go.
nickname.
Such an apt nickname.
Perfect
I
for
get
her.
it.
I thought it was interesting to find that she was Ring Magazine's Female Fighter of the Year in 2005 and 2006, won boxing titles in 3 different weight classes, and only 3 of her 38 professional boxing matches have happened outside New Mexico.
3 different weight classes? That's not normal, right? I feel like that's a lot of different...
It's tough because in certain, you look at guys like Miguel Cotto, who
he's
go
moved a
up
lot.
and up and up in weight classes,
Right.
but for the most part, I think you're right. 3 is a big number.
It's a lot, right?
Yeah,
I feel like 2 is...
2 is kind of like
right.
that sweet spot, like, oh wow, he or she fighter went
That's
from,
already impressive.
right, because it's a totally different type of training, it's a
Absolutely.
different strategy,
diet,
everything. What I thought was coolest though, was she suffered a brutal knockout against Anne Sophie Mathis on December 2nd, 2011. right? And I don't think there's video of it. I've seen some of the pictures, though, and it was brutal.
Yeah.
She came back 7 months later and beat Mathis by unanimous decision to regain her welterweight title. I love that. You've been face down on the mat. You just put Ronda Rousey face down on the mat, and you were able to come back and call and response. Your response was, I'm going to come back better and stronger. Also, if you see any of the videos with her interviews with TMZ Sports interviews,
Humble.
Really humble. She wants, you know, she's like the type of person, as she said, she goes to the same lunch shop in Albuquerque
That's so cute.
all the time and gets the same Diet Coke,
Well, when
Greek
you fight-
salad. This is what you would get, Frank. A Chelsea
Well, there may not
sandwich.
also be that many options.
That's a good call. There might not be a Chipotle in downtown
I
Albuquerque.
mean, it's
Oh,
not like
that
we're
is
talking
a-
about it's
that
New
is a
York City
crime.
here.
There should be a Chipotle in every
That
single
is a
place in
crime.
the world.
That's a crime. It should be illegal.
But yeah, I've watched a lot of her interviews, and there was one over at 120 Sports where the bottom line is she wasn't as open to the interview as Ronda was. Like, Ronda's been through this, and she knows, and she's self-promoting at the same time. But I was so intrigued by Holly Holm because she was so focused, and each one of her answers were precise. She never really showed any disrespect for Ronda Rousey and continued that throughout. There was obviously that whole problem in the press conference where it was stated that she threw a punch. No, Ronda just tried to get into a lock and actually punched herself when you seen it. Like, Holly Holm was, I think, won the fight from the mental part of the fight from early doors, from just being so focused on it. And that pays tribute to who she is as a person, I think. We don't know as much, and I think we're all trying to figure out a little bit more behind it. I mean, when you have your Facebook number, you have your number on your Facebook.
That's amazing.
It's clear, like, that's when you don't expect to take this rise to stardom, and that's when that speaks to someone who is humble, like, because undoubtedly she changed it, right, Jason? Because that must have been.
now
Oh
she-
my gosh.
well,
She
now-
must
been
have
an
to.
influx.
She picked up like a manager now, and obviously every single sponsorship is going to start coming her
course.
way.
Entourage just called back the movie, and we're going to send it out with Holly in
Yeah.
it instead.
Like, we made a mistake.
She does have a cat named Buster, and I'm not a cat person.
I'm not a cat person
You
either.
a cat person?
Blowing it.
Or dog
I
person?
like cats and dogs. I really like all animals. If I was
you're
going to
one
pick
of
it.
those.
This is an age-old
Come
argument
on,
here.
man. You got to take a side.
Really?
Everyone prefers a dog or a cat. This
Okay,
is
I mean, if I had to choose, yes, I would pick a dog, but I do really like cats.
good job. This is the same kind of comment that I make once. I always make these kind of comments. They're philosophical at times. Like, there's a name that came out the other day on a clip, and it was a guy called Dick Pound. Like, and some people would try to be funny and try to like be professional and be like, just say the name Dick Pound. If you don't laugh at the name Dick Pound, you're not human.
In addition to all of these factoids about Holly Holm, she trains with John Jones. They're both from Albuquerque, so that makes sense. And the location for that is at the Jackson Wink. A lot of Winklejohn,
There's a
Mike
lot of
Winklejohn
Winklejohns.
Academy in Albuquerque, including Carlos Condit and Andrei Arlovsky. But John Jones is a major supporter of Holly Holm. He was ecstatic after the fight as he took to Twitter to congratulate her. I'm sure he also probably called her in person and congratulated her. But
With
that's-
along the other millions of people that now have her number from Facebook.
That's very true. You can send her a quick message. And most importantly, I mean, John Jones is a tremendous UFC fighter and close to the top of the pound-for-pound ranking. So having him in her corner, that's impressive.
Absolutely.
Regardless, we were very excited to talk about Holly Holm and giving her the credit she deserves for being in the spotlight. Hopefully she continues to be in the spotlight and we find out more about her because in 2015, with social media, look, we just got 10 facts. We know she has a cat. How the hell would anybody else actually know that until there was like an article in a newspaper after the fights? This is not 1970 though. That's Lauren Mayhew. You can follow her on Twitter at LC Mayhew. And on Instagram at official Mayhew, at Francis_Maxwell, and at Francis Maxwell TYT, and at Jason Rubin 91 for all the social media needs that you might have. Like, favorite, subscribe. We'll see you next time.